What happens when a former royal, who stepped away from titles for freedom, faces a host who knows no boundaries in his questions? This conflict on The Howard Stern Show went down in television and radio history, becoming a viral moment discussed for weeks. No one was prepared for what happened next. An interview meant to promote memoirs turned into an emotional explosion that revealed deep wounds and principles. This is a story about dignity, respect for privacy, and the danger of using a platform for humiliation instead of dialogue. It was a sunny morning in New York, where Howard Stern, the king of provocative radio, welcomed guests to his SiriusXM studio. The studio buzzed with energy. Bright spotlights illuminated large leather chairs, cameras captured every movement, and a live audience, a mix of Stern's fans and admirers of the guests, sat in tense anticipation. The air smelled of fresh coffee and adrenaline, with sounds of clicking microphones, the faint hum of fans, and hushed conversations from producers behind the control room glass creating the atmosphere of a typical talk show. But this day was about to change everything. Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, entered the studio with a confident smile. He was there to promote his new memoir, Spare, already a bestseller, detailing his life in the royal family, conflicts with the press, and his journey to independence. Harry was dressed simply yet elegantly, a navy sweater, jeans, and sneakers, emphasizing his new life in California, far from royal protocols. He shook hands with Stern, who sat behind his iconic desk, surrounded by microphones and screens. The rest of the team, co-hosts Robin Quivers and producer Gary Delabate, smiled, trying to create a friendly atmosphere. The audience erupted in applause, some even shouting, "Welcome, Prince! Harry, you look like a regular guy just wanting to tell his story," Stern said with his signature gravelly smirk, which always hit a sharp tone. Howard Stern, known for his uncompromising interviews that dug into the most intimate details of guests' lives, sat relaxed, but his eyes gleamed with anticipation. He was driven not only by ratings. Stern loved to provoke to uncover the truth, but sometimes it veered into personal attacks. Robin Quivers, sitting nearby, nodded in agreement, her face showing genuine curiosity, while Gary behind the glass was already preparing notes for the show. The interview started lightly. Harry talked about the book, how he wrote it to tell his side of the story, the challenges of growing up in the shadow of the royal family, the loss of his mother, Princess Diana, and his marriage to Meghan Markle. The audience listened intently. Some nodded, others whispered to their neighbors. "It's not about revenge," Harry said in a calm but firm voice. "It's about truth. People deserve to know what happens behind closed doors." Stern nodded, offering compliments. "You're a brave guy, Harry. Not everyone would dare to do this." The atmosphere was friendly, with light laughter when Harry joked about his accent and life in America. But no one expected the turn that followed. After the first commercial break, Stern leaned forward, his voice sharpening. "Harry, you write about the royal family, your brother William, your father. But let's be honest, you're now living in luxury in Montecito, with millions from Netflix and Spotify. Doesn't it seem like you're just selling family secrets for money? That doesn't look like truth, it looks like a calculation. You criticize the press for invading privacy, but you're writing about your brother's intimate details. Isn't that hypocritical?" The studio froze. The audience, which had been laughing moments ago, now sat in silence, some exchanging shocked glances. Robin Quivers glanced at Stern, her face betraying discomfort. She tried to intervene. "Howard, maybe let Harry explain." But Stern waved her off, continuing. "No, Robin, it's a fair question. Harry, you say you want peace with your family, but your book is full of accusations. You abandoned royal duties but cling to the title for promotion. That's not passivity, it's calculated. People want to know, are you a hero or just another celebrity monetizing drama?" Harry clenched his fists under the table, his face holding a diplomatic smile, but his eyes flashed with anger. He responded calmly, though with a hint of steel. "Howard, I respect your show and your directness. But my book isn't about money. It's about breaking free from traumas I've carried for years. I'm not selling secrets, I'm sharing experiences to help others going through the same." As for my family, I love them, but the truth needs to be told so we can move forward. The tension began to build. Stern didn't back down, his sarcasm growing sharper. Oh, breaking free from trauma? What about the trauma you're causing your family? Your father, King Charles, just ascended the throne, and you release a book detailing his mistakes. And Meghan, you both talk about privacy but give interviews to Oprah and write books. That doesn't look like vulnerability, it looks like a strategy. Don't you think people are tired of your royal drama? You're an American now, why not leave the past behind? The audience reacted. Some nodded in agreement with Stern, others shook their heads, and one woman in the front row pulled out her phone, starting to record, a sign the moment could go viral. Robin tried again to defuse. Harry, tell us about the positive side, how the book has helped people with mental health issues. But Harry, his face now flushed, replied, Thanks, Robin. Yes, the book has helped thousands open up about their trauma. But Howard, your questions don't just target me, they target my family, my wife. I came here to talk about the book, not to defend myself against accusations of hypocrisy. The producers behind the glass began whispering, one waving to the camera operators to keep focus on the faces. The studio sounds, soft keyboard clicks, the hum of cameras, seemed louder in the silence. Harry's voice trembled, but he held himself with dignity, his eyes locked on Stern. This was the start of an escalation, where diplomacy gave way to emotion. No one knew the climax would be even more dramatic. The Howard Stern Show studio was electric with tension. The bright spotlights felt hotter than usual, and the hum of cameras and hushed audience whispers only heightened the sense that something historic was about to unfold. Prince Harry sat across from Howard Stern, his hands still clenched under the table, his face calm but his eyes betraying an inner storm. Robin Quivers, the co-host, tried to defuse the atmosphere, but her words were lost in the charged standoff between Harry and Stern. Producer Gary Delabate, behind the control room glass, nervously exchanged glances with the team, while the audience, divided in their sympathies, sat in tense silence. Someone was already recording on their phone. This conflict was headed for virality. Stern, sensing he'd hit a nerve, leaned closer to the microphone, his gravelly voice turning more piercing. Harry, you call yourself the Duke of Sussex, but you left royal duties. You used the title for Netflix deals and books, yet criticize the system that gave it to you. That's not breaking free from trauma, it's a brand. Isn't it hypocritical to sell family secrets while slamming the press for invading privacy? The audience gasped. Some in the back clapped for Stern, supporting his pointed question, while others shook their heads, visibly uncomfortable for Harry. A woman in the front row, holding her phone, whispered to her neighbor, He's gone too far. Robin Quivers tried again. Howard, are we pushing too hard? Harry, tell us about your role in this new life. But Stern cut in. No, Robin, I want an answer. Harry, you talk about peace with your family, but your book is full of accusations. You left duties but hold on to the title. People are tired of your drama, why not leave the past alone? Harry took a deep breath, his jaw tightening, fingers gripping the chair's edge. He looked straight at Stern, his voice quiet but firm. Howard, you're twisting my words. My book isn't revenge, it's explaining why I made my choices. The title is part of my story, but I'm not hiding behind it. I share my experiences to help others, not to hurt anyone. Stern smirked, like a predator sensing weakness. Help others? Harry, come on. You live in a $14 million mansion, your wife wears designer dresses, you both give global interviews. That doesn't look like helping regular people, it looks like a privileged guy complaining about a privileged life. Don't people see you as a hypocrite wanting both fame and sympathy? The words hit like a slap. The audience gasped again, some covering their mouths, the silence deafening. Robin lowered her eyes, clearly uneasy but not daring to stop Stern. Producers behind the glass panicked, one whispering into a headset. Keep the camera on Harry! The camera zoomed in on his face, capturing his eyes flashing with anger and his lips trembling with restrained emotion. Harry stood slowly, his movements deliberate but resolute. The studio froze, Even Stern looked surprised, his smirk fading. "Howard," Harry began, his voice trembling but growing stronger. "You can mock my life, my choices, my book. But you don't know what I've been through. You don't know what it's like to lose a mother at 12, to be under cameras your whole life, to see your family torn apart by headlines. I wrote this book so people who feel trapped know they're not alone. You accuse me of hypocrisy, but what do you do with your platform? You use it to humiliate people who come here with an open heart. That's not journalism. That's cruelty." The audience erupted in applause, but it was mixed. Some supported Harry, others stayed with Stern. The woman with the phone raised it higher to capture it all. Robin finally spoke. "Harry, I respect your stance. Let's talk about how your book inspires people." But Harry shook his head, his eyes glistening but holding dignity. "Thanks, Robin, but I can't stay where my words are twisted and my life is used for drama. I came to talk about truth, not to fend off attacks." He turned to Stern, his voice low but piercing. "Howard, I hope one day you realize respect matters more than ratings. My truth isn't your entertainment." With that, Harry removed his microphone, placed it on the table, and walked toward the exit. His steps, confident but heavy, echoed on the studio floor. The audience was stunned. Some stood clapping, others sat in silence, unsure how to react. Stern tried to joke. "Well, that's the show, folks. What do you say?" But his voice sounded unsteady, his smile forced. The producers were in chaos. One shouted into a headset, "Follow him! Don't lose the shot!" Cameras tracked Harry as he disappeared backstage, the studio door slamming behind him. The studio descended into chaos. The audience buzzed. Robin tried to calm everyone with, "Let's take a break." And Stern, visibly rattled, muttered, "Well, that was unexpected." The moment was already going viral. Clips flooded social media, and Twitter exploded with hashtags Harry vs. Stern and Spare. The studio door of the Howard Stern show slammed shut behind Prince Harry, leaving a silence that lingered in the airwaves. The audience sat breathless, divided between applause for Harry and nods of approval for Stern. Robin Quivers tried to steer the show back on track, softly saying, "That was emotional. Let's take a break and return to the conversation." But her words felt hollow. The moment was already slipping beyond the studio, racing into the whirlwind of social media. Cameras still lingered on Harry's empty chair, while producers behind the glass exchanged panicked glances, realizing this episode would become legendary. Within minutes, clips of the interview flooded Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. Hashtags #Harry vs. Stern and #Spare trended worldwide. Snippets of Harry ripping off his microphone and delivering his final words, "My truth isn't your entertainment," racked up millions of views. Social media users were split. Some called Harry a hero for standing up for his dignity, others a spoiled prince dodging accountability. "He said what everyone thinks about Stern," one commenter wrote. "Harry's just playing the victim, as always," countered another. The moment became a viral meme. Frames of Harry's blazing eyes were captioned with phrases like, "When you're done taking it." For Harry, the incident was another turning point. His team released a brief statement. "The Duke of Sussex came to discuss his book and its meaning, not to engage in confrontation. He's grateful for the support of those who understood his message." Sales of Spare skyrocketed, especially among those who saw his actions as a defense of vulnerability and a stand against stigmatization. But in royal circles, rumors suggested a chilly response. Sources close to the palace hinted that Harry's walkout only worsened already strained family ties. Stern, meanwhile, didn't miss the chance to capitalize on the scandal for ratings. In the next episode, he quipped, "Well, at least we gave the prince some airtime." But his tone betrayed uncertainty, and media critics accused him of crossing a line. Some of Stern's fans defended him, arguing he was just asking tough questions, but many admitted this provocation went too far. Robin Quivers, in later interviews, dodged the topic, only noting, "Harry's a man of principles, and I respect his choice." The conflict became more than a TV moment. It was a mirror for society. It forced people to reflect. Where's the line between free speech and humiliation? Does a public figure have the right to defend their privacy while sharing their story? Can a platform like Stern's be a place for dialogue, not just drama? Harry's lessons, about dignity, respect for personal boundaries, and the strength to stay true to oneself, resonated with those who saw him not just as a prince, but as a person grappling with trauma. What do you think? Was Harry right to walk out? Did Stern have the right to ask those questions? Who was in the right? Share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to catch more stories that make the world talk.